Welcome to In Case You Missed It Club. This is a place of positivity on the internet, she says, as if such a thing exists. My name is Lindsey Kelk. I am an author, and today I am joined by another author, best-selling author, I must say, best-selling author, don't pull that face, best-selling author, Kevin Dickson. You're not born looking like you shouldn't be incredibly proud of the things that you've achieved. We're not having that here. I'm only having joy. Just joy, Kevin. It's just joy. That's all this is.
That's all Kevin, I come to you for.
That's why I asked you specifically.
For quite some time now.
Kevin is the author of 2 books to date, which is very exciting. If you're watching the video of this, you can see them behind me right here. Oh, yeah. We have Blind Item and Guilty Pleasure. They're both very good. I don't know if you know this. If you don't, you should check it out. Kevin, hello.
Hi. Oh, that was a bark. Sorry. We should preface this. We normally speak and see each other constantly, and this is the first time I've seen you since COVID lockdown.
Yes, and you were the last person I saw pre-lockdown.
Right, it was that week, like early March.
I saw you on March 11th at a sushi restaurant at the Americana Mall in Glendale.
Remember when?
I'm not saying I'm clinging to it, but I'm clinging to it. And
I've clung to it.
We were just sat there going like, yeah, it's going to be all right though, right? Do you think it's going to be? Do you think they're going to shut everything down? I don't know.
And then we were like, oh, 3 weeks? What?
3 months. Cut to 3 months later. Cut to nearly 4 months later.
Yeah, no, 4.
It's hilarious. Like, this is a place of positivity on the because
and I mentioned true. COVID.
Because these are true facts that Kevin and I usually spend all of our time talking to each other. And in fairness, it's been a fairly steady stream of texts. It's not
we don't have anything to say.
Neither is it.
Both of us have been good. Like, I've been not as good as you, but we've been locked down AF.
I know, it's just, I could stand for it to not be happening anymore. Hopefully by the time you hear or see this, it might not be happening and Kevin and I will have been blissfully reunited.
Oh God, that'd be nice.
It's a dream that I cling to. Another thing that I'm going to cling to are the wonderful things we're going to talk about today. So In Case You Missed It Club is a celebration of all the things that have made us happy in the past being from any time from before this podcast started, because time means nothing anymore. So you can be nostalgic for yesterday, you can be nostalgic for something that happened when you're 5. I have no rules anymore. So what we're going to talk about are things that we loved as a child, books that have meant so much to us, music that has meant so much to us, and I know Kevin's got a ton of things to talk about on those topics, so we're going to get started because I want to hear your answers. Kevin, okay. What was the first record you ever bought?
I think it was the Best of the Jackson 5, probably when I was like 8, because they had a cartoon show. I'm old, and there was a cartoon show with the Jackson 5 that were kind of like superheroes that would zoom around with like big afros and cool flares, and they would do things. And so I saved up and bought the best of, and then my auntie Cheryl took me to see them in concert, and that was my first concert when I was like maybe just, I don't know if I was 9 yet.
And was that in Australia? Was that?
Yeah, it was in Sydney.
Wow.
And so yeah, and then the Jackson 5, and then that same auntie gave me a Led Zeppelin record, which I thought was pretty damn cool. But as soon as I hit high school, I traded it with some kid's brother for the first Ramones record, and the rest is history.
Oh, I mean, talk about mixing it up though from the auntie. That was nice to go
from
from Jackson 5 to Led Zeppelin. You're 8
Her
years
influence was good. I know. And the Hair soundtrack. We literally would sit in her bedroom and sing the Hair soundtrack. It has bad words. It is all about sex and weirdness. And I would just sit there singing that Air song, which has the O word in it. Oh, and she'd like play her guitar and we'd sing Air, but from Hair.
I mean, I'm not saying that's the first thing we should do immediately after lockdown ends, but it's on the list.
I know every word. There's only like 3 musicals I know every word. There would be Hair, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and The Sound of Music.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What was your first, apart from Hair, what was your first musical experience? Was it Sound of Music?
Yeah, I'm going to say probably that was the first, I think that was the first movie that I saw at some rerun house with my mum and dad, because they just lived for that movie. But as a musical that I went to, the first one was Pippin, and the best thing about Pippin in Australia in the 70s was that every year we had a thing called King and Queen of Pop. And John Farnham, who sings "You're the Voice, Try and Understand It," whatever that horrible song is, that was a big hit. He was king of pop when Pippin came around. So it was him and the queen of pop were Pippin and whatever the lady in Pippin's name is. I don't remember, the princess. And so that was a hot ticket. And my dad never wanted to take us to anything. So he had a butcher shop and he would make the butchers take us. So some poor old butcher took me and my wretched sister to see Pippin. They got to bring their kids. So like a bunch of 4 kids, a cranky, some grumpy old butcher whose name I forget, Sam, Stan, who knows. And we saw Pippin. And then my grandfather gave me the soundtrack for my birthday that year, which I would have been like 10-ish.
Despite these formative musical experiences, I should point out that you are also a musician and have been in multiple bands, and people should listen to Chew Toys on Spotify immediately after this because it's really good.
Please, yes, make me 1/800th of a cent.
I demand that you make at least 1/800th of a cent out of this.
Our last earnings statement, I think our last earnings statement was like $18.
Oh, there you go. That means someone listened to it like at least 800 times 18,000. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a lot of
plays. It's a lot of plays. And I think last year, because I didn't sell a book last year, I actually made more out of music than publishing. And it was like $48.
You mean you didn't sell a new book? Not no one bought one of them.
Yeah. I didn't sell. I didn't do a new book deal. I'm still working on that one.
Yeah. We're all always still working on that one. But given that you obviously music became very important to you, and you have been and are a musician, I would like to know about not just your first record, but what was the real formative musical moment? Probably, I'm thinking pre-teens, teen era.
It was
what was the record that really
the Ramones. Because back then, like, I'm old and nobody remembers how horrible music was and how like dreadful the radio was and how everything was just this horrible, like long drum solos if you wanted harder rock, or soft rock was like Linda Ronstadt crapping on about some nonsense. Or Fleetwood Mac, who I love Fleetwood Mac still, but come on, like Cocaine and Excess. It was just like, oh my God, this Rhiannon doesn't need to be 45 minutes long. And so then I got that Ramones record and was like, okay, that's that. And then in Australia, they did not care. If you wrote that you were 18 you got your bus pass. It didn't even have your name on it. You wrote Kevin Dickson, age, I'm 12. I've got a bit of bum fluff. I'm putting 18.
It was a kind of time. It was a more...
And you would show it at a pub and get in to see bands. You would see The Cure when at a pub on a forest tour because you had 18 on your bus pass. It was nonsense. You could see all these bands.
We all faked our age on our student union cards when I was in the 6th form in England as well, because we were all 16 and we got our student union cards, and our teacher just couldn't be bothered to read everyone's form, so she signed all the forms and then handed them out. Right. So then we filled it all in, and we were all looking at each other going like, this is too easy.
All these people that were like, fake ID. I'm like, fake ID, just handwrite it.
I understand it's much more difficult these days, but also not. So, it depends how committed you are to getting it done. Moving on from first record, we talked about it a little bit there with Sound of Music. What was the first movies that you really remember being important to you?
This is going to be a weird one. My mum took me to Sound of Music and The Wizard of Oz. And I remember she warned me, for some reason, she thought that the Technicolor would startle me for some reason. So I knew that it was going to go into color. And I was like, okay, that's pretty, but I don't, and I was like 4, and I was like, why did you think that you needed to tell me that? Because it's kind of cool to not know, but whatever. And then my aunt, the one that gave me the records, took me to see Chariots of the Gods when I was like 5. And she's like, God was an astronaut. And I'm like, watching this movie that I'm not getting any of, thinking that aliens are among us and being really freaked out. I must have been 6 or 7.
But and you've got to be thinking you would take it seriously, because your cinematic experiences only involved you being told the truth, because your mom said it's going to go color, and then it did go color, and then your aunt tells you.
And then she bought the soundtrack, and we sat in her room and played the soundtrack to Chariots of the Gods by Deodato. And I was like, but are the aliens still here, Cheryl? Are they still here? And she's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like...
I'm worried that Aunt Cheryl either wasn't getting out as much as she could have.
She was a hippie.
You. with people her own age.
Oh no, she was getting out. She had friends.
In that case, I'm worried that she may or may not have been a Scientologist. Also, like these are areas that I'm
Well,
uncomfortable with.
she passed before she could have become a Scientologist. She's gone now. You know, but like her daughter is like my sister, so we're best friends and all this. But yeah, she was really influential. She was great back then because it just was like, wait a minute. Like when you're a kid, I think these days it's very manicured or curated what you see.
Yeah.
But in the early 70s, anything went. Like it just was like, oh, here's more information, you know. And I was a weird, bright kid, so I was just like, okay, cool, interesting.
It may or may not go Technicolor at any point.
At any point, it still does.
It still does.
Still does.
Still does. Speaking of Technicolor, I feel like this is going to be a good answer. I have very strong feelings about the teenage outfit choices that I made for myself when I started buying my own clothes. And even though I know objectively they were terrible, like I still feel really strongly about them, I would like to know, what were the outfits that defined your youth?
I'm lucky I'm not a girl because I would have been a mess. I know that because I was kind of a mess as a boy. And it was the Ramones again, because it was that age, like where you're starting to be rebellious. So in Australia, you have to wear school uniforms. And I would say that my uniform got, you know, someone threw up on it. So it's in the wash. And because we had to wear wool, even in the summer, wool trousers.
They didn't tell you that on Neighbours.
Think about it. No, because I think they might have woken up by now that maybe something that breathes. Or you could wear wool shorts if you wanted to be teased impossibly, and long socks. Or you could just wear wool trousers and just sweat to death because it was like 100% humidity and 100 degrees. But I would wear, I got like Chuck Taylors. I ripped the knees out of my jeans. My mother was furious. It was like and no one gets it. It was a massive deal to have ripped jeans. Like, what's wrong with you? And a Ramones t-shirt that I saved up a lot of pocket money, didn't eat, and got it for like $15 from
much
Phantom
money.
Records. It was an import. You live in Australia, everything's a bloody import. So I had one Ramones t-shirt in like 1978 or 79, and I had long hair down to here. I just parted like this. It was dreadful. And I have wavy hair, so it just looked like Rocky Dennis in Mask, like that kind of hair. I literally had Rocky Dennis hair. The face, probably arguable, but and bum fluff, because I couldn't shave or I'd never get in to see bands. And I would go to school and get sent to the principal every day, and they would go to this bin of old clothes, and they would put a shirt on me that someone had left behind in the gym.
Not the old clothes bin.
And you could still see the Ramones logo through the white shirt, or the blue shirt when I was a junior, then white shirt when you're a senior. And then one day, then would get detention, and it was just a pain in the ass. And the deputy headmaster, Mr. Endicott, he was like, "People like you are responsible for terrorism." And this is in this probably 1979. He's like, "People like you assassinated Anwar Sadat." I remember it so clearly. And I was like, I don't think so. And yeah, I was always in trouble. One time I turned up at a charity walk. We put on Alice Cooper makeup for the charity walk for autism or something, and we got sent home. But I was like, I didn't have time to wash it off. We were in art. It was an art class. Whatever. Anyway. And then I got mohawk, and that was the worst thing ever. Because by then my parents had moved to regional north of Sydney, scary, scary conservative land. And I had to take a train. Whew, and I had a purple mohawk.
How did you keep the mohawk up? What was your preferred method?
I let it grow out because it was actually more trouble than it was worth. And it also cost like $40 because they had to dye it purple and it was fancy.
Oh, well, I mean, if they've got to dye it purple, it's not free, is it, Kevin?
No, and this is how I stayed thin as a teenager. Records and hair dye.
It's just $15 imported T-shirts and purple mohawks. It's a great diet. I've heard it's fantastic.
I wish I could find it. Mom made me take a photo of it when I got it. She hated it so much. But there's a really hilarious photo of me like standing next to a poster of Wendy O. Williams from the Plasmatics with my fist up. It's hilarious. It's nonsense, but it's funny.
We must find it. You have reminded me of a terrifying memory of when I was little, and we were in the handstand phase of being a little girl. I don't know. Did boys have a handstand phase?
Oh yeah, everyone had that phase.
Because I remember it being very gender split in my school. Oh, no. It was like the boys would be playing football and the girls were all against the wall doing handstands.
All of us, everyone, whole school.
That makes me happy. I obviously grew up in a terrible place, but that's a given. but we were doing handstands, and you would tuck your skirt in your knickers
Mm-hmm.
to stop it coming down. And then one of the boys pulled my skirt out of my knickers while I was mid handstand, and I fell
Not
out of the
fair.
handstand and fell into a puddle. So I got wet, obviously, from the puddle, and I had to go and put clothes on from the old clothes bin.
That
And
bin.
everyone at school, I mean, this is infant, so I was like 6 tops. I remember it so clearly. Everyone at school accused me of having wet myself, because that's why
Mm-hmm.
you had to get changed, because you wet yourself, because that was the
You
most
should have gone
common
home.
reason for getting. Well, because then when I went home in the old clothes bin, what did my mum say? My mum
You wet yourself, didn't
also
you?
insisted that I had wet myself, and it was like, I'm not a liar. I fell in a puddle because
Also,
someone
I live in
pulled
England.
my
It's rainy.
I'm like, someone pulled my skirt out of my knickers and I fell in a puddle. And that, to everyone who'd ever met me, apparently seemed less of a likely story than having wet myself in public for the first time. It wouldn't have been the last time, I'll give them that, but it would have been the first time. I'm like, you
I believe
absolute
you.
monsters. Thank you. I mean, you've met a lot of my friends. You know there's
Yeah.
been a lot of weeing incidents.
There's been a lot of weeing. I'm not
It's
saying
just
I'm
a
not
thing
part of
that
it.
happens.
There's been a lot of weeing.
I mean, like,
We've drunk.
sometimes
We've
you
drunken
go
a
a long
lot.
way. Sometimes you've had a drink. Sometimes you're a long way from a toilet. It's hard to say. That old clothes
Usually
bin,
both.
man. I mean, in Vegas,
And
who can find the toilets in Vegas? Who can find the toilets in Vegas?
you've got a plan. You need to have at least 10 minutes before busting in
Yeah.
Vegas.
They
At
don't
least
want
10
you
minutes.
to know where they are. I should clarify, Kevin and I go to Vegas quite often, or in the past, pre-qua, would frequent Vegas. We were there in
And
February. Let's be
we're
nostalgic
there in
for
February,
Vegas in February.
but we didn't maximize it because we didn't know.
No, we didn't
We
know.
were very laissez-faire with that. We were like, you
I
had
know.
your had a headache. I had other people that were demanding my attention. It was really
I
hot.
stayed in my room to work.
Yeah, you worked.
I didn't know this was going to happen. Like, I stayed.
We would have
in
had
my
a lot
room
more to drink.
to work. Absolutely. I did see Jeff Goldblum at the airport though, so that was
Oh,
worth it. At Burbank, you missed him. I was heartbroken. Very
that's all
charismatic.
right.
Such an attractive man. Didn't know it.
I don't
until
like his show on Disney Plus.
No, I don't get that either. But I didn't get the Jeff Goldblum thing until I walked past him, and then I was like, oh.
He's very tall.
Yeah, so tall, and he had a little hat on, and he was sort of doing
I've-
that jazz walk that he does, clicking his fingers, wandering down like in his own world. Middle of Burbank Airport. It's tiny, you guys. It's the tiniest
tiny.
airport.
It's the only way to go.
So great. We've gone off topic, and I don't even care. First celebrity crush. Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, I wonder. I don't know. Isn't that weird?
It's a lie.
I know. It should
it's a
be.
lie.
Well, because when you're young and you're like a gay and you don't know, you kind of have weird feelings, and it would be like, is Marianne on Gilligan's Island cute, or is the professor cute? And then you're like, wait, he's ancient and she's kind of dumb. Maybe that's not a good one.
I feel like you just described actually yourself now, and not when you were
I'm going to go with those two on Gilligan's Island because that was on TV, and I was just like feeling things because I would like to be stranded on an island.
Yeah.
So let's go with
I'd
that.
take it right now.
Yeah. God, Gilligan's Island right now would be amazing.
It would be a beautiful, beautiful place.
I
mean, this follows on from Celebrity Crush. Would you like to share with us your first kiss? Do you have happy memories of your first kiss?
Yeah, actually, we're still friends.
Aww.
And it's funny, since I deleted Facebook a while back, I haven't had any real way to, I think I could probably email her. Her name's Lisa. I don't think she needs to suffer any more than that. I was clearly figuring myself out, and I did waste quite a bit of her time, which is not fair, but we remained very good friends. And interestingly, we helped each other through big divorces around the same time in our lives back in like 2007. And whenever I go home, I see her. I'm quite good friends with her daughter, who works at the zoo in Sydney, and she's a lovely person. So it's great that she's doing well. She changed careers recently. So yeah, no, it's not terrible at all. She's wonderful.
So nice. I'm so pleased. It makes me so happy when people have great first kiss memories. I don't. So it's so nice, because you always want it to be like in a book where it was just like, oh, we were nervous and it was lovely, and then we were like, hee. And obviously you don't have to get married
kind
afterwards,
of it.
but that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be on the dance floor at Visage in 1997 while Aqua's
Oh,
Dr. Jones is playing and somebody is literally trying to shove their tongue down your throat because you didn't have your
no.
first kiss till you were 17. It wasn't even Barbie Girl, Kevin. It was Dr. Jones.
Still waiting for Barbie Girl.
I should have waited for Barbie Girl. They played it after they did an Aqua Mega Mix. I remember it so clearly, and it was so awful. It was so terrible, and I was so excited, and then afterwards, like, so disappointed. It's like I waited 17 years for that, you bastards. Like, I was furious. I was furious. Um, well, I'm glad that was a happy memory at least. One question that I have asked a lot of our lady, in case you missed it, club members, but I feel like you're going to have a great take on this also. Do you have any first makeup or self-care memories that really jump out to you?
Yeah. When I was very young, like I didn't go to college and I started working straight away and I needed money. So I took a job with the government. And there's this crazy, weird man that still lived at home. Think he was straight. He was just a weird Australian. Australian has a lot of weird people. And he was one of those weird blokes that just doesn't ever really do anything, never leaves home. But he sold a cosmetics line that was available back in that would be sometime in the mid 80s, I guess. And he was 35 and I was like 19. And he was like, how old do I look, mate? I look young. You should buy this moisturizer and use it, and you're gonna keep your skin good. And I literally was like, okay, because he didn't look old, and 35 sounds very old when you're still a teenager.
Agreed.
Like, and by then you think you're about to retire. So I bought a tub of this like muck, and I would put it on morning and night, and I've never stopped using moisturizer. And because of
And
this
now
one
look at you.
weirdo
Now
at
look at
work,
you. Face of a baby.
I know, and I've transitioned to old person Lancome.
But I
And
feel like
then,
that's a gift.
yeah, it's a real gift. And then in the 90s, I'm not going to swear. I
You can
loved,
swear, you can swear. It's entirely
do you remember
reasonable.
like X-Girl makeup?
I know what it is. I don't think we had it in
You're too
England,
young.
but
But
I obviously from my history of makeup explorations.
like that was the thing in the 90s. It was like the Beastie Boys and Luscious Jackson and X-Boy and X-Large and X-Girl. And the makeup was in both sections. And so they had this phenomenal men's eyeliner, like a liquid liner that you'd put on your top, and it was absolutely iridescent. So if someone took a photo of you, you had this weird eyeshadow of light. And then they had nail polish that changed color from like a blue silver to like a weird purple that I just lived in. Like when I first moved to America in 97, I brought it all with me, not realizing that no one here gave a shit about the Beastie Boys or like this weird New York, Australia thing. And I looked like quite a fool, I bet. But and I would have and they sold glitter and stuff.
Nice.
So it was just this weird thing where you just sort of sparkled a little bit as a guy. Because grunge was such a monotone of blur that it was nice that this one company was like,
movement.
it wasn't. It was like pimples and facial stubble and
I
and
mean,
that was
the
never going to be
iconic
me.
grunge video has cheerleaders with armpit hair, which everyone's entitled to have armpit hair if they want them, but you're not going to call it a pretty movement,
No, and it also just was kind of like, it was like such a downwardly mobile movement. Like you couldn't even look good. You just had to look like shit, and that was fine. And it was, I already, I look like I look. So a bit of slap on the old face made me feel better about the day.
Nice. Now I want iridescent eyeliner. I feel like you've been chasing that iridescent eyeliner dragon for many years.
I feel like I've seen it recently, and I shall endeavor to find it for you.
It will happen. We'll find a way.
And I'll wear it. I'll be wearing it.
Yeah, you will. Question that I have to ask because it's my favorite one. Favorite scents? Like, what is there? An aftershave? Is there a perfume? Is there a body spray? Are you haunted by CK1? Is there?
I loved CKB in the 90s. My favorite scent is an Australian flower called the Baronia. It was my mother, and I would always find Baronia perfume for my mom, like every Mother's Day. And she'd be like, I don't know where you find this stuff, but you just have to look because it's not popular. And even on recent trips, I've looked for it and it seems to have gone away. But it's a beautiful flower. It's a bush that has little pink flowers or brown flowers, I think, on some of them. It smells amazing. And so that's a really good smell. I love that you gifted me that wonderful Tom Ford as a gift for helping with your wedding. I put that on days when I don't feel great, and I just spray a little bit, and it makes me feel so happy. It's oud wood, right?
I think it's the oud wood. I believe it was the oud wood.
It's
It was a year ago, so it may as well have been 1,000 years ago. I no longer know.
But I've also turned into my mother, and now I have one of her doilies on top of my shelves with a pot she made in school and my Tom Ford next.
Nice. It's
You know how
what
you
Tom Ford
like
would want. That's what
how
Tom Ford
nanas
would
always
want.
put their fucking nanas put their perfume next on the top of their dresser. As
Oh,
soon
yeah.
as you gave me that, I was like,
Where do you think all
and
of mine is? Like
yeah, no, it's on my dresser on a doily. Like, what the
It's the
hell's
only
going on?
place. It's the only place that perfume's allowed to live.
Yeah, and that's it.
Oh,
It brightens my day, and I love it. Thanks.
yay. Favorite childhood book? This is the last question. And if it's too hard to
Oh,
pick
it's
one book,
easy. Easy.
oh,
Danny Beaver's Secret.
oh, what was the secret?
Danny Beaver's Secret changed my life. Like, it was my favorite book when I was a little kid. I started reading when I was like 1.5, and my mom would fall asleep reading at bedtime, and I'd be like, "Come on, Noah's Ark, Noah's Ark, the
Snap to
dog
it,
comes
Bonnie.
next," and she'd be like, "Ugh." And Danny Beaver's Secret, I can't remember who wrote it. I think Richard Scarry's wife did the words, and Richard Scarry did
Huh.
the art. It's beautiful. I'll get it for you. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And what Danny Beaver does, it's summer by the river, and it's very hot. And so Danny Beaver goes to every resident, like the chicken and the pig and the cow and the horse, and he borrows something from them. And they're like, "Well, okay, I'll give you this thing that you're asking for free, but why?" And he's like, "I can't tell you, it's a secret." And at the end, Danny Beaver has made them all a pool. And like Mrs. Chicken gets in a swim ring and goes in the pool, and the pool looks really beautiful. I've often thought of getting a tattoo of some of the art because it's really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I recommend it. So Danny, and I still love doing that. I will still try and surprise a friend by doing something like stupid, but that's Danny Beaver working. I love that book so much.
That's
I have a
so
couple copies
nice.
of it downstairs.
I love Richard Scarry, and I've never heard of that book.
Yeah, he
And
didn't write it. He just,
no,
I
he
think,
just illustrated it. That's
I
so
think he did the
interesting.
paintings.
I
And the
am going to
paintings are
find out more
beautiful.
about Danny Beaver and his book because he sounds like a chap. I
He's
think we should all
awesome.
be more Danny Beaver.
He slaps his little tail all the mud to make his pool.
Aww.
Yeah,
Also, I'd
good.
like a pool.
Oh
So
God, right now.
just give him
pool.
a shout. I've got a paddling pool, but it's not the same. It's actually not
Ours
even a
popped a
paddling
hole.
pool. It's a dog
Ours
pool.
went down.
I'm so sorry. Get yourself a nice dog pool like mine. It's got hard sides. You just fold it out and fill it up. It's magic.
I've seen those on the internet.
Yeah.
I've been getting sponsored ads, and now I'm going to get a lot more.
We're gonna get so many more because we've both got our phones near us, and now we're gonna get 1,000 sponsored ads for dog pools.
I
And
told you
nothing
I've been
about
doing
Danny
shopping
Beaver.
for friends. I bought bras for friends and feminine supplies for friends, and Instagram thinks I'm a woman of a certain age. Hot flashes, use the cup, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my God, all right, waste your money on me. Instagram, waste your money on me.
I'll tell you again now what I told you before. I can't recommend the cup enough. This is not a sponsored podcast.
I have
the
shared your information with my friends.
It's a game changer, ladies.
I get the moon cup every other ad. It's so popular.
Oh, it's that good though. Thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. Where can people find you? No, where can people find you on the internet?
They can't.
Answer that question
good on it.
first.
You know I'm not good on it.
Well, if they wanted to find information about your books, there we go.
I have a website which is kevinjamesdickson.com. On Instagram, on Noise Barn, but it's literally just photos of my dogs.
Who wouldn't want to see that? You've got
I
delightful
know, they're
dogs.
beautiful. And that's where I am. They can email me. I'm easy to find. Send me a message. I'm quite friendly, as you know. I love a chat. I can't say no to a chat. But I do want to talk about your book because I loved it. And I know that you said that this was a chat about happiness and things, but I've read most of your books. I've read a damn lot of your books, and because there's a lot. And
I like
this one, I feel like we talked about it a lot while you were working on it. I heard your roadblocks. I heard your process quite a lot on this one. And also, we were in the process of planning your wedding. And we were very in a lot of contact about, and you were also around for my wedding, which was only a year and a bit earlier. And I feel like a wedding is a deadline, and a wedding is a choice that you've made, and you, from the engagement into the wedding, you've got to look backwards and really dig down and see if you've made the right choice.
And no matter how many times you told me not to do it, I still did.
Don't believe I said don't do it. Did I say don't do it?
I mean,
I don't think I did.
I mean, you stopped saying it like the day before, so you didn't say it the day of, so that's totally
not
fine.
the day of. I was busy.
I got that really good healthcare, Kevin. I got really good healthcare. And
That,
who's
and
laughing
that
now?
alone,
Who's
that
laughing
alone. But I think you really dug deep into stuff that was so close to your heart and so close to the process that you were going through. And so when I finally got to read this book on my phone on a plane to Iceland, I read it in February, and I was crying. I was so in it because it's not autobiography. I know it's not, but you put this woman through the same ringer that you put yourself through, and that we all put ourselves through when we make a choice to marry someone, which is a weird, weird, weird thing to do to yourself. And it's a great thing, but the way you tackle it in this book, I fucking loved it. And there, I knew I couldn't get through this without swearing at least twice.
I'm glad that I managed to elicit the F word out of you. I'm
But
proud
I
of myself.
loved it, and it's beautifully written, and it's a beautiful way to look at choices. And a wedding isn't necessarily your goal. Being honest with yourself is, and really asking yourself hard questions. And that book, as funny as it is, as clever as you are, and it is, I loved it. It was just, I'm so happy that I got to read it, and I've pre-ordered it. And when it comes, I will read it again properly in a paper format, because reading a book on your phone sucks.
It's not the ideal medium. No. Yes, you suffered. No one suffered more from this book than you, who heard about it more than anyone else.
Sign me up. It was fun.
So I appreciate it. And anyone who read the early drafts, I apologize to them. You got the sweet final draft, which was the best place to pick it up, because those early drafts.
We've all been there.
People should absolutely go and check out Blind Item and Guilty Pleasure.
Read them
right here. It's a sexy, fun read, says Kristen Cavallari.
I know.
If that's not high praise. And look, Erica Jane. They're quoting on Guilty Pleasure there.
I actually gave those books to my chiropractor last week, and I saw that Erica Jane quote, which seemed so funny at the time.
It's one of those jokes that becomes less funny the more times you hear it.
It's immeasurably unfunny. Like, I don't know how unfunny something can become in 2 short years, but wow, we managed it.
Yeah, she's got a gift. She's got a gift. But so have you, for writing and talking and music and all those things. So I highly encourage everyone to go to kevinjamesdickson.com, check out those books, order them, do it for yourself.
Yeah, or message me on Insta. I chat on Insta.
Yeah, but they can't read your books by chatting with you on Instagram, Kevin. They should chat with you on Instagram, because it's delightful, and they can ask you about all the wonderful art behind you right this very second, and they can ask you about Mandalorian. I feel like you've got thoughts about that. Not for now, for next time. But they should absolutely check out the books, and they should check out Chew Toys on where can they listen to Chew Toys?
It's on everything.
It's everywhere.
It's on everything. It's on Apple Music. It's on Spotify. It's on, I don't even know.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Chew Toys. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Kevin. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
It's lovely to see you.
And one day we will be back in Vegas to do it properly.
God, again. Please soon.
One day. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.